Hi, everyone. This is Willie Crawford, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Business of Internet Marketing. Um, Today's guest, my first guest, is George Stavrou. He's the author of the Stavrou Method, a 12-week, day-by-day guide to health, wellness, and fat loss for all fitness levels. George has 25 plus years experience in this business, and he's a certified expert. Uh, so that's why I invited him onto the show. That and I noticed that a lot of us online marketers, we spend countless hours at the computer and we sit and we eat bad foods, and uh, eventually we notice that we've gained a lot of weight and we're in really poor health. And to me, that's a concern. We spend all of our time trying to make money, basically, and then one day we wake up and we need to spend all of our money trying to regain our health, and that's not the way to do it. You need to approach it more holistically from a preventative angle, I guess is the best way to describe it. So, George is on the show today, and welcome to the show, George.
Thank you very much, Willie. I've been looking forward to this for a while. And you certainly touched on a lot of great points in it, because sometimes, people do use the excuse or explanation that they're too busy to actually not just improve their health, but stay in great shape. So, I've got about 5-6 tips I'd like to share with you and your listeners, if you're okay with that.
That sounds excellent. That sounds absolutely beautiful. Why don't you go ahead and start? Well, first of all, if you want to tell them a little more about yourself, we have time for that too.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so a bit of a background on me. Like Willie said, I have been in the health and wellness industry for the better part of 25 years, worked in a variety of different settings, commercial gyms, corporate health, exercise equipment store, health food store, selling vitamins and supplements. So it's a little bit of everything. I'm not claiming to be the expert in all the different health areas out there. I'm more of like what you call the hub. So what I do is I bring people together that are experts in their respective industries. And that's part of the package that we're working on right now, and we can certainly cover that a little bit more. So to let people know that if I've got the answer for you, happy to share it. If not, chances are I know somebody that does have the answer that you're looking for.
Excellent.
Just try to point them people in the right direction.
Yeah, excellent. And part of what I do is I'm the reporter. I'm not the expert. I interview experts, and that in itself puts me front and center. So it's that's what I do with my radio show. Why don't you go ahead with the 5 tips then?
Okay, so I would say tip number 1, and I'm just going to grab my notes over here.
Okay.
Be consistent with your sleep. Something I read a little while ago is every hour of sleep before midnight is the equivalent of 2 hours after midnight. So it doesn't mean that sleeping from 8 p.m. to midnight is the same as midnight to 8 a.m., but just from the research that is out there, if you can kind of shift your sleep so there's a little bit more time before midnight than there is after, it's going to just result in better overall health. So I find going to bed at a decent time, say around 9 or 10 o'clock p.m., tends to work for me. And it's relative to, say the shifts that people are working, what's going on with their family life, things like that. For the most part, I'm in bed during the week, say 10 o'clock at the latest, and normally I'd say about 5, 6 the next day.
Yeah, and I'm 59 now, and for the majority of my adult life, I actually got by on 4 hours of sleep a night. No matter what time I went to sleep, 4 hours later I was wide awake, and so I said, well, why try to force yourself to sleep? Recently, I've decided that I am going to get more sleep, and so now I do. I do things like use aromatherapy, like lavender fragrances.
Yeah, that's very beneficial as far as relaxation and late at night. Definitely.
Yeah, so then I fall asleep, and if I wake up with less than 4 hours sleep, then I force myself to go back to sleep. I also take power naps during the day. I had a boss who used to take a nap during his lunch break. He'd go.
I still do.
Oh, excellent. So that is Yeah. But my mother used to express concern over me getting so little sleep. She said, "You're going to get an enlarged heart. You're not giving your body time to recover." So, you know, I think that's excellent advice.
I'd say so, and that actually leads into my next point. So it's a bit of a balance between quantity sleep and quality sleep. So it's like, maybe with your 4 hours a night for whatever amount of time that you've been doing it, you could be going into very deep sleep and your body's actually recovering, rather than somebody that on the surface looks like they're getting a lot more sleep than you. They may be out for 7 or 8 hours, but it's a restless sleep. They're getting up quite often in the middle of the night. So I think one of the things that does help people out a lot is keeping track of things in a sleep log. Like, when you went to bed, when you got up, were you sleeping throughout the night? I find that my sleep, there's a range of how much time I need. So anything less than 6.5 hours, it's not enough for the most part. Like, there's going to be a few days here and there where I can get by on that, but I'm not going to do it for a long period of time. Anything much more than 8 hours, it's almost like a groggy or drunk type of feeling. So I find, at least with my body, by keeping track of things in the sleep log, 6.5 to 8 hours regularly, I'm good.
Excellent, excellent. And I find basically the same thing. It's just that since I work for myself, I don't work for anyone else. I work odd hours, so sometimes I'll be on the internet in the middle of the night or working on some project in the middle of the night because I'm focused. My mind is really clear. I find that when I sleep, that I wake up most refreshed if I allowed myself, though, to go into a deep REM sleep, and I actually dreamed and things like that. So that's what I look for.
And I also like what you said earlier about taking power naps. That actually helped me get through college and university. So I found that, say, a 20 to 30-minute power nap, and I'm good for another 2 hours that night. But if I skip the nap, I'm just not as productive as I could be. And I know, with the people on your list, like, that have been following you regularly, Willie, is sometimes they think it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep pushing myself, burning the midnight oil, and I don't need the sleep. It's like, well, we need, to be cognizant of the fact that we're going through a lot of recuperative things while we are sleeping at night. And it helps us to stay on track and maintain a good level of health. Because there's a concept out there, it's called sleep debt. It's almost like credit card debt. We have to pay it back eventually. And if you're always shortchanging yourself, it does add up after a while that the person will need that extra time on the weekend where they just say, you know what, I'm going to bed. I'm not going to set the alarm. And whenever I get up is when my body's telling me that I'm done.
Yeah, and I find also that I'm more productive if I get more sleep. You think you get more done if you slept less, but I find just the opposite. So, I can get more done in an hour if I'm alert than,
Exactly.
3 hours if I'm groggy.
That's right. Yeah.
Excellent.
And what you're saying before, where you wouldn't get more than, say, 4 hours sleep a night, we've all experienced this. Sometimes we'll get up and just can't fall back to sleep right away. So I tend to give myself about 15 minutes. And if I'm not falling asleep after the 15-minute mark, I'm going to get up and be somewhat productive. So I'm not going to do anything crazy, sort of like a wild workout routine at 3 a.m. in the morning where my blood is pumping like crazy. But I just do a few things, catching up on emails or the internet or whatever. So at least I'm making the most out of that time. If I do fall back to sleep within 15, then I just go with that. Because you don't want to just lay there and hope that you're going to pass out again. An hour later, nothing's going on, and then that's an hour that could have been used for something else. So it's a matter of knowing your body as well. That's certainly a big part of it.
Excellent points.
I'd say the next point that I want to cover is, and this is a big thing, it's just planning your meals ahead of time. So the approach I used to take is I'd spend, say, 30 minutes every day to cook something, but we tend to be better off if we can devote an hour or so on our days off of work, whereby we can cook various, say, meat and veggie dishes and just combine them in different ways. So you can actually have a different meal every day of the week. If you figure you're in the kitchen anyways, you may as well make the most out of that time and have a few more meals ready, so you're not devoting time daily. It's just, here's my chunk of time, it's done. And once the meals are ready, just put them in the refrigerator or the freezer for future storage.
Yeah, I like that. I personally, I've been a fairly good cook since I was a small child, so I know how to cook. In fact, I've written several cookbooks now. Yeah, I grow my own fruits and vegetables, and I grow
Beautiful.
without using pesticides or herbicides, so I know the quality of the food that I'm eating. But,
Mm-hmm.
but my wife does most of the cooking, so I don't have to worry about the cooking. She enjoys cooking. She gets up,
That's
goes
it.
out to the vegetable garden, and picks fresh fruits and vegetables, and
Mm.
she cooks them. So
Mm-hmm.
and she knows what I like. So it's fairly easy for me. Having someone else do the cooking for me.
Yeah, it definitely makes a big difference. You want to enjoy the food. Like you don't want to force yourself to have something that you just don't like the taste or the texture of. And there's nothing wrong with experimenting with different things. It's just a matter of knowing, your own personality and making the most out of it. Because you'd have to say like, the healthiest meal plan out there, you know, the devised by say like, a nutritionist slash chef that like, okay, it's very high quality ingredients and it's probably the most nutritious things out there. But if you're not enjoying it, the stress alone from eating that day in and day out could probably affect you in a bad way as well. So maybe a person's better off not having the healthiest all the time, but it's something that, say it's 90% healthy for you, a little bit of cheat here and there, but they can still be more consistent with it too.
Yes, and that I like the concept of cheating because
Hmm.
you don't feel like you're being a slave to some diet. Uh,
Exactly. Yeah.
yes, I like.
And there's some purists out there where they say, okay, you can never have a cheat meal or a cheat day ever again. There are exceptions to the rule, and everybody is a little bit different. But if it's a professional athlete that's training for a major event that's taking place a few months from now, or say somebody's dealing with a major illness where they have to stay on top of the program more than, say, the average person, then I'd say that they should be more disciplined with it. But for the general population, it's nice to let loose occasionally. So, and what I recommend to people that I've trained is just eat clean, 5 to 6 days throughout the week, and have a little bit of a cheat 1 to 2 days. So it's 5 to 6 steps forward, a couple steps back. And when a person is going to cheat, start off with something healthy to begin with. So, and this accomplishes two things. Like, it offsets the damage from the cheat meal. And another thing is by starting off something healthy, you're somewhat full from the good stuff. So you're not going to have as much room in your stomach with the bad stuff.
Excellent, excellent advice.
And, and think of it this way, we're social beings. So say you've got a social event coming up on the weekend, I'm spending time with you. If you're eating clean the whole time and I'm a sloth, and it's not as a judgment thing, it just feels some people are more regimented than others, you may have some resentment towards me because I'm enjoying the so-called forbidden foods. I may have some kind of resentment towards you. Look at Willie, he's got his act together. But if you plan for it, just say, I normally follow this, but through the day I'm relaxing a little bit. You recognize that there's going to be a little bit of damage from it, but you can recover from it too. And this
Okay,
way people feel more comfortable in the long run.
that's excellent advice.
Yeah.
Excellent advice. Um, that's like tip number 4 or whatever.
Gonna double check here. So that's tip number 3. So with number 4 is make the time for exercise. And I've been guilty of this, Willie, where it'd be an all or nothing approach. So if I couldn't get, say, an hour in, I wouldn't do anything. So it's like, sometimes I allow myself to get in the way. It's like, one day off turns into a week off, turns into a month off. 6 months later, I look at myself in the mirror, I recognize the face, but the body is nowhere near what it was prior to that.
Wow.
So, yeah. So you figure, even if it's just 10 minutes, and it doesn't have to be anything too crazy, but a person can do a full body routine, even if it's like a set or two for the larger muscle groups, they can still get benefit from it. And it doesn't have to be like one 60-minute session at once. A person can spread it out throughout the day.
Yeah, I
So that,
start most of my days off with a walk, and
mm-hmm.
I am a bit of a workaholic, but I find that when I'm going for a walk, especially in nature, it stimulates my thinking. And so
Mm-hmm.
I take my iPhone along with me, and I make notes to myself, either using a voice recorder or
Yeah.
typing in a notepad. So, you know, my iPhone right now has like probably 100 notes I've made
Mm-hmm.
that I plan on like sharing on social media and places like that. So I don't feel guilty taking an hour to go for a
No.
walk.
Yeah, and you're more productive. It's almost like an active meditation in a sense.
It is. It is.
Rather than sitting there and just kind of gathering your thoughts. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes we just need that peace and quiet for 20 minutes. But I think it's great though, because I do know that you go out in nature and you really enjoy yourself. So you're accomplishing a lot of things with that 1 hour. If you try to do everything separately, it might be 3 or 4 hours to do what you want to do.
And I do exercise several times throughout the day. I've practiced karate for 40 years, and so I do that. And I do like the strength training too. I'm not a bodybuilder by any means, but I'm strong.
Yeah, and find what's right for you. That actually leads to the next couple of points. So as far as the routine, everybody has different needs, but I say for the most part, focus on full body routines with compound movement. So compound movement is 2 or more muscles and 2 or more joints in one exercise. So if I have a choice of doing, say, even a pull-up, and I don't know how well they can see it on my screen. So you can see that there's movement at the elbows and the shoulder. So the up movement is getting quite a bit of the upper body. I'm getting the upper back. I'm getting the biceps, a little bit of shoulder activation, and forearms. I could do isolation where it's just, say, a curl on its own, or even just, say, a back movement on its own. But if you're doing larger movements, you're going to get faster results in a shorter period of time. It's not to say that you should only do the large movements, but if time is very scarce, which it is for a lot of your people, stick with the bigger things.
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. And I hadn't thought about that so much. I mean, I do, even on my walk, sometimes I'll pass by a place where there's workout equipment, and I'll do pull-ups and things like that just as a part of my walk. So I like it. Yeah.
And it adds up after a while. Another recommendation, and this will actually be tip number 6, I find that I get very good results if I'm alternating my days. So I'm hitting the weights 3 days a week, and I'm doing cardio 3 days a week, but I'm going back and forth. So today was my weight training today. Tomorrow's going to be cardio. Tuesday's weight training. Wednesday's going to be cardio again. So by going back and forth, I'm getting some nice variety. So it's mental variety, which is certainly a big part of it, and also a physical break, so I don't run the risk of overtraining. Because too much of any one thing without having the right break in between things can set yourself up for just overuse and potentially some major injuries down the road.
Okay, it makes perfect sense. I opened by telling people that you're the creator of the Stavrou method. Why don't we discuss that and tell them
Happy.
So they can get it and everything, or check it out. So first of all, what prompted you to create it, though?
So very good question. This is a resource that I put together that I wish I had years ago when I first got in the industry, because there's so much misinformation out there, especially for somebody that's a newbie. It's not so much, say, their chronological age, it's their training age. So you can have a 15-year-old that's a professional gymnast, as an example, that has been getting the right kind of coaching and training for 10 years. They could be more of an expert, or you can have somebody that's a senior citizen that's never done a properly designed routine in their life. So like 15-year-old would have a higher training age than, say, the 65-year-old. And what I've done with the package, it's more of a holistic approach to optimal health and wellness, and it's more preventative in nature. So I'll give you some background. I'm based in Toronto, Canada. The way that our healthcare system is set up, and I'm not too sure what it's like in the U.S. in your neck of the woods, but 95% of the healthcare spending is more on, say, the treatment side of it, and only 5% is prevention. So I'm not saying we should pump more money into it, but the numbers should be flipped a little bit. I'm not saying to do it overnight, because some people are suffering from serious things. One of the contributors to the package, he's a physician in the U.S. He says the best cure for anything, whether it's type 2 diabetes, cancer, high blood pressure, things like that, don't get it in the first place. And apparently 80% of illnesses and diseases can be minimized or even prevented outright by following a proper program. And I'm not making the claim that a person will never succumb to any kind of illness, but the approach I've taken with the contributors to the package is, here's a resource that you need in different areas, So it's less likely that a person will fall ill, and if they do, there's a better chance that they can bounce back from it.
Yeah, we're about the same in the U.S. In that we focus on treating the illness more than we do on prevention. Although with my military background, the emphasis was on prevention. I mean, we were required to, do exercise, and if we were an enlisted troop base in the dining hall, they focused on nutrition and things like that. So that was different, but that was forced lifestyle. Like in most of the industrialized world, I believe that the majority of people are overweight.
Oh, there's a considerable amount. Yeah, I'd say easily 3/4 of the population are either overweight or even obese, which is scary because there's more information out there, less action on the information, and a lot of times people don't know where to start. So they say, well, here's a perfect program. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit. As solid as the program is that I put together with my colleagues, it's not perfect for everybody all the time. So there's different questionnaires in there, flow charts, and saying, okay, based on how you answer the questions, here's the level that you're at. So there's some called experts out there that will have a complete beginner doing a large movement like the squat, which is rather challenging to learn properly as far as the technique side of it. And they've got them using a heavy weight that they can only do for 6, maybe 7 reps. I figure, well, I'm not going to have an 80-year-old woman doing something like that right off the bat. I'm going to introduce them to something like where it's minimal resistance, more repetition so they learn the movement properly. And if there's a breakdown in form, I know that it's not the resistance that's causing it. It's the actual need to learn the technique.
Yeah, I like that. And in fact, that prevents injuries too. I mean, if you, yeah. If you do a too strenuous exercise when you're not ready for it, or too frequently, when you injure yourself, and now you have to take time out to allow your body to heal itself.
Exactly. Yeah, and you figure it's like, the muscles are rather large compared to our tendons and our ligaments. So pulling a muscle is one thing, and a person can recover rather quickly. But if you pull a tendon or a ligament and you have a tear in that area, that could be weeks or even months as far as getting back into the gym again, or even just have a good quality of life.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Now, I basically read the description of your course, even your training, although I was first exposed to you about, I guess, 5 years ago, and I have the physical version of it. Now, the current version that you recently updated, it's delivered all online. Is that correct?
That is, and I've actually expanded on this with the initial version. There's more focus, say, on exercise and nutrition, some lifestyle weight management. What I've done with the revised version, Willie, is bringing on other contributors. So the areas of health that I'm looking at as far as preventative is, say, physical health, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, and say relationships with ourselves and others. So as an example, a person could be very healthy in 5 of those areas, but if they're going through a messy divorce and they've got to pay some major alimony, the finances can offset all the positives in the other areas. So fortunately, I do have experts that share their knowledge and wisdom over the years, and it's basically just one-stop shopping. So it goes back to what I was saying before. I'm more of the hub rather than the expert.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot of people lead very stressful lives because they're constantly worried about money. I'm fortunate enough not to be in that position, but it's because I've worked all my life. I started working as a small child.
Exactly.
And I create my own products and services that I sell over the internet. So, and I mentioned I'm 59. My intention is to semi-retire next year. And when I say semi-retire, I'm going to turn over a lot of responsibility for running my business to others. So
very nice.
Outsourcing and delegating because I want to take time off to take time to enjoy myself, to enjoy my grandchildren.
Exactly. Yeah, and you put a lot into this over the years. You need that downtime.
Yeah, and so stress is a big problem for a lot of people. I mean, they don't think about it so much, but if you're constantly worried about money or you have relationship problems, and that's very stressful,
Mm-hmm.
then it does affect your health. So
Correct.
it's critical that people pay attention to things like that. So it sounds great that you have so many contributors to your package.
Thank you. Yeah,
Now,
another thing that we've done as well, and sorry about jumping in, my friend.
oh no,
So as solid as the package is, there's always more information that can be added to it. So there's also a monthly membership site that's in a private area. And there's always adding more experts and interviews, audio, video, special reports, that type of thing, just to kind of expand on the initial program as it is.
excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Now we've got about another 2 or 3 minutes, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure we tell people how to get the package or check out your training. So it's at the StavrowMethod.com. You want to spell that for them?
Yes. So Stavrou is spelled S-T-A, V as in Victor, R-O-U. And I know that we're going to be having links, say, to our recording, so that'll make it easier as well in case people missed it the first time. So the StavrowMethod.com, and the Stavrou method is one word. There's no hyphens or dashes or anything like that.
And I will post a link below the podcast, or anyway that I share the podcast, I will post the link to
Perfect.
your site, so that
That's appreciated.
even though if you spelled it out, they can just click a link that's better, or easier for them.
Exactly.
Get lazy. Now, this podcast is broadcast over iTunes and Stitcher and a lot of other places. So there are people around the world who are listening to this, and so some of them will have to jot it down while they're in their cars or on the train, riding to work and things like that. That's why I wanted to spell it out. So
definitely.
I always like to spell out things, because even though you hear something, sometimes it's a challenge to know exactly how to spell. I mean, I've known you for, like I said, 5 years, and sometimes I have to go and look at my spelling.
Yeah, when it happens, sometimes people miss the U at the end of my last name. So, I like your approach. Just spell it out, clickable link, and just makes it a lot simpler for everybody to do what they need to do.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and wrap things up, and hopefully I'll be able to have you back on my show again sometime soon.
Looking forward to it, yeah.
Again, I think it's very important that my listening audience think about it, think about their health, think about prevention and staying healthy, rather than, waking up one day and you're in terrible shape, and now you got to try to struggle to get back in shape. And we mentioned doctors earlier. Most medical professionals that I've been exposed to, they focus more on treating illnesses by masking the symptoms. And so even if you have like pain, they give you something to mask the pain, but they don't focus on the cause of the pain. So that's
and that's a very good point. So if I could just add one little thing before we do wrap up.
Sure.
If you look at people that do have, say, high blood pressure, a lot of times their physician will put them on prescription med. And this is a general rule of thumb, but textbook normal for blood pressure is 120/80. There's a little bit of variance between, say, the higher and the lower the two numbers.
Yes.
So say somebody goes in with very high blood pressure, they're taking the prescription meds, bring them down to what looks like it's a good range. Okay, it's preventing the chance of a cardiac incident, but what's to stop that person from being a fat, lazy SOB?
Yes.
So it's what would be nice, I'm not anti-medication by any means, but if a person does require it, speak to the physician and say, can we reevaluate every 3 months, and what can I do just with more natural methods as far as exercise, nutrition, supplementation, stress reduction, that type of thing. So say you have twins that are out there, everything's the same on the surface as far as their blood pressure, and they're both on the medication. One just follows the doctor's suggestion. The other follows it, but improves their life a lot of ways. So don't you think that 120/80 would actually drop if they're doing more of the right things?
Yes, absolutely.
And then maybe gradually wean themselves off of it. I'm not saying stop abruptly, because the body's expecting certain things and I'm not making that claim, but you say, you know, now you're in a better spot, so maybe we can reduce the dosage by a quarter of the amount. And that's a conversation to have with the physician. Then get to the point that maybe minimal medication or none at all.
Yeah.
Like over a period of time.
Yeah, we do need to wrap up in a few seconds, but
Okay.
My physician actually does full blood workups. I mean, they draw like 5 or 6 vials of blood and look for
nice.
everything, you know.
That's great.
And it, you know, it's reassuring to know I'm very healthy, but you still want to know what's going on in your body. So
yeah. And have the doctor explain where the measurements are. Some numbers should be higher, some should be lower. Have the conversation, say what's an optimal number to be at for this particular type of result, rather than just saying, well, you're okay. Well, okay doesn't mean anything. You know,
yeah,
I want to be at a certain point there where I reduce the chance of something happening later.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So why don't we go ahead and wrap up and plan on having you on the show again sometime
Fantastic.
soon.
That'd be great.
Coordinate that. Thanks again, George.
Thanks a lot there, Willie. I really enjoyed the time with you and your audience.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.